what should colleges be doing to prevent and respond to sexual assault? What should Washington do? And we have three experts here to talk about this. To my left, U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, Democrat from New York. She has sponsored legislation on this issue, and she's pretty outspoken about it. Molly Ann Brody, to her left, is the Senior Vice President of the Kaiser Family Health Foundation. She's been immersed with us here at the Post in producing the poll that we just reported on over the weekend. And she will tell us what the Post-Kaiser poll has to say about student perspectives and perceptions of prevention efforts and investigation efforts. And to her left, Deborah Wilson is the Associate Athletic Director of George Mason University, which is the largest public university in Virginia. And she wears another hat. She's the chair of the Sexual Assault Task Force of the NCAA. And she literally wrote the book, the handbook for the NCAA on this subject of sexual assault. It came out last year. Thank you for being here. So before we get started, a couple of things. First, I'm going to turn to you in the audience soon for questions, so please be thinking of questions that you'd like to ask. And for those of you who are tuning in on the webcast, a reminder that you can join in too through the hashtag #postcoffee. And so I'd like to start with Senator Gillibrand. Your legislation, it's called the Campus Accountability and Safety Act. Can you tell us about this bill?
So what we're finding is that most schools just don't get this right. Whether you're a big school, small school, public, private, there's just not the level of reporting and adjudication where both the survivor feels like justice has been done and even those accused that they feel the process is fair. So we need to professionalize the process, we need transparency, and we need accountability. So our bill does four things. The first thing it does is have an online survey that every student can fill out on every campus across the country that the Department of Education will write and administer. And in that survey, you can write whether you feel safe. What's the climate like on campus? Is it safe? Have you ever been raped? If so, did you report? If you didn't, why not? And where do you feel unsafe? So not only will you have, as a parent and a student, a very clear picture of what's happening on any given campus around America, but the administration will have a clear picture of what they need to do to fix their campus. So if it's just that one bar off campus where everyone feels unsafe, or that one fraternity, or this one night of celebration, they can then begin to make changes as necessary. If you see a school that has not made any reports under the Clery Act about rape, and they show in their survey that 100 people said they were raped in the last year, that's a huge problem. So they know there's something about the reporting system that's not working. So the disclosure alone will transform how this works. Second piece is memorandums of understanding with law enforcement so that you know in advance if you're going to report a sexual assault, the school knows exactly who at the local police department they're going to call, what the protocols are. It's all decided in advance. So there's no showing up at the police department and whoever seems to be there is making fun of you and saying, well, you knew the guy, well, you were drinking, well, look what you're wearing. That has happened, and it makes reporting difficult. So having that MOU. Third, basic training. So there's a minimum certification required for anyone on any campus who does adjudication. And last, changing the fine mechanism. Because today, it's you can be fined your student aid money, and no one's ever been fined their student aid money. So just 1% of operating budget is you can be fined.
Okay, a little follow-up on your bill. So you have a lot going on already in Washington on this issue. The Education Department's investigating more than 100 colleges. You, in Congress, enacted legislation a couple of years ago in this space that put some new requirements on colleges and universities to disclose and to train and prevent in certain ways. So I can already hear in my head colleges telling me, okay, please tell the senator we're already doing a lot on this. You know, do we need another bill?
we definitely need another bill because most schools haven't gotten it right. And many schools who have had trouble are doing things like surveys, are having training. But if we can professionalize the whole process and have the Department of Education take responsibility for creating certified programs, that's going to make a difference to have that minimum basic training. And one piece of that training is every school now have a confidential advisor. So there's one person you go to, and it can be from the local rape crisis center or even related to law enforcement, but one person designated. When you go see that person, they're going to give you all your options and know everything, and it's confidential, and she can explain why a rape kit might be important, or what happens if you go to the police department, what happens if you do the on-campus adjudication.
Okay, I'm going to turn to Molly now. And Molly, I'd like you to give us a little perspective on what the polling tells us about what students think. Do they trust colleges to fix this problem?
You know, the responses from the students were really interesting on that front. I think most of the universities and administrations would actually be pleased to know that the students in our survey gave them very high grades. I mean, 69% gave the universities A's or B's in how they're handling this issue, and very small percentages gave them D's and F's. And they have confidence in the university's ability to handle this. On the other hand, those numbers are not the same for those who have actually had these kinds of experiences, right? They have less confidence and they have more concern about what the universities can do.
And what are the students telling us about what they think colleges can do that would be effective?
You know, we did. We asked people what they thought the universities could do, and then we asked what they thought other students can do. And in terms of what the universities can do, what's interesting is of the top 4 answers, 3 of them are related to training. They said they want more bystander intervention training. They want self-defense training, which I think is very interesting. And they want to make sure that training is required of everybody. So I think that is this is what students are saying would be very effective. What we also saw is that while most of the schools, about 74% of the respondents told us that they had training at their school, only about half of those students said they actually took it, and much, much smaller percentages said that it was very effective at communicating and useful doing what they did. So we have a quality issue, perhaps. Maybe not a quantity issue, but a quality issue about the kinds of training that's happening.
So there's a lot of training going on, but they need to work on it, maybe.
It's certainly a question.
Okay.
One last thing about what they told us the schools can do. They were very clear that they didn't think cracking down on alcohol or eliminating the Greek system from the campus was going to do anything. So I think it's important. We know that that's been part of the policy discussions, and it's certainly part of the things that universities and administrations are considering, but those are not things that the students themselves tell us will be effective. We also know what they think that other students could do to be effective, and you know, the number one thing is men respecting women more. And so we can talk more about that as we go on.
Terrific. So I'm going to turn to Debbie now. Now, you have a lot of insight into prevention efforts from your work with the NCAA and sort of the perspective of athletic programs and how they grapple with this. So what works? What in your sense, in sort of the handbook you've written and your discussions with athletics departments and colleges, what works out there?
Okay, this is a particularly difficult question, and you all can leave now before I start answering it. But we first have to understand that what we're talking about here, we are talking about trying to change a culture. And the culture is not the culture of athletics in my case. It is our general societal culture. Our campuses inherit this problem from the general culture. Many of our students, and I was talking with a colleague at one university who said at that particular school, up to 30% of their incoming freshman class has already been victimized by sexual assault. So we are inheriting this, but it is also being perpetuated by college students assaulting other college students, and that is the focus here. It is not the stranger. How do we make cultural change? This is a huge problem. There are many of you in this room who have devoted your careers, and sometimes beyond your careers, your lives, to trying to help people in this area. You need more assistance. We have got to have comprehensive, long-term, committed programs, and they must have certain characteristics. The number one thing is compliance. This is non-negotiable. It goes back to what the senator was saying. Some of the the needs for compliance or the legislation, the regulations need to be put in more user-friendly language for most of us on campuses who are not lawyers, who are not adjudicating these cases. But that is the cornerstone of any effective sexual assault prevention program. We have to have education in 2 areas. We have to have general knowledge about all the different types of sexual assault, and we have to train our staff, our faculty, and our students from the beginning. One thing that I have heard people say is, well, what about when the perpetrator is really ignorant of what constitutes rape? I don't understand this. We are colleges and universities. How can we not help our incoming freshmen understand what we're talking about in this category? There should be not a single student on our campuses who does not, or at least hasn't had the opportunity, they may not remember it or learn it, to know what rape and sexual assault are. Thank you. The second thing is we have got to have skills training. You've probably heard some of those referred to here. Our college student population is in general sexually active. They enjoy this. They look forward to it. They try to create opportunities for it. We have to help them understand how to do that in a healthful, respectful way where both partners, or if there are more, are enjoying it. They're looking forward to it with positive anticipation. I was at a party recently and someone said, oh, consensual sex, you're taking all of the allure and the mystery out of it. And I was like, yeah, really? You think an emphatic yes is not encouraging? So I'm like, now maybe we haven't been too creative in helping people understand how yes looks. Well, first of all, only yes means yes, but there are many ways to say, may we, OCC. Oh, please, continue. Okay, it doesn't all have to be down and difficult.
I hear what you're saying, and we're gonna come back to that. But I'd like to turn to folks in the audience who might have a thought or two, a question. Let's go here to this gentleman in the center.
Hello, my name is Jesus, and I am a rising senior at Harvard. I have a question for the senator, and then for Ms. Brody as well. For the senator, can you expand a little bit on the relationship between institutions of higher education and their relationships with states, and states with the federal government, just because there's a lot of policy being passed at the state level that has to do with campuses reporting, doing like an annual report that they submit or that they make public as well. And for Ms. Brody, can you expand on the methodology, given that a lot of the legislation is considering doing surveys, and you guys did a fantastic survey. Can you guys expand on the survey completion rate and what that looks like and challenges that you guys faced?
Quick answers.
On the state level, New York State, the legislature just passed a bill in our state as well. They're trying to solve this problem as well, which is good and smart, and they have their own tools to do that. And what we're doing on the federal level is entirely complementary. So it will just strengthen the system across the board. But I think having a nationwide survey is one of the most powerful tools you can put in place. As you know, I work in the context of the military as well, and having the Department of Defense do a survey every 2 years is extremely meaningful because you really do have a snapshot in time as to what this climate is like, and we need to know, do people feel safe, and if not, why not?
On the methodology, I'm going to say we should talk afterwards, and the whole methodological team is sitting to the right here. We used all the best practices, and really the goal of the project was to be able to have a nationally representative, in a sense, benchmark that now the other, universities, states, individual sources can use this to match up against. And I think that, we've been incredibly transparent about how we ask the questions and what we counted. And I think this is the goal is to be able to use it now and say, this is what we know nationwide, what's happening in your local area, what's happening on your local campus.
Nick, I'd like to add a comment about the survey because I think it really deserves a tremendous amount of credit, the Washington Post and the Kaiser Family Foundation. Partly because it is so confirming of other research, and some of that other research is coming under a lot of scrutiny. There are always, we call it the bubble hypothesis. In other words, if you're trying to press a piece of film down on a flat surface, you get all these bubbles and you got to sort of push them out. Sometimes you can't get them all out in research. They did a tremendous job, but what they're also doing is bringing more credibility to those earlier studies that we can have confidence in these numbers. And one statistic I'd like to throw out for you, this was from a survey research done by the American College Health Association. Our female college student athletes are victimized at almost exactly the same rate as female college students generally. Our male college student athletes are victims at higher rates than their non-athlete
That's
peers.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question of the senator. Senator Gillibrand, there's a lot of pushback on this issue from a certain quarter, supporters of students who are accused of sexual assault. I hear this, you probably hear this. They say they're being treated unfairly by college investigations that don't have the same standards of evidence, same due process rights as the criminal justice system. And I wonder what your response to this is and whether Congress and the federal government are taking their views into account.
Absolutely. When we wrote our bill, we worked with the accused population, made sure that they had the same rights of representation as someone who was alleging the crime. And so all notice requirements are for both, all representational requirements that you can have someone by your side representing you are for both. And the difference in the processes is important, and I'm just going to clarify it because I get a lot of common sense approach says, well, I don't know why schools have to deal with this at all. Just give it to the prosecutors. Put it in the criminal justice system. Well, the reality is that I would prefer many more cases to be going to the criminal justice system, but you need a way as a campus administration to get a serial rapist off your campus. And if you have to wait for a full trial and a full adjudication, that might be 2 years. You have to have a tool where you can have a fair process, hear both sides, and then make a decision. Now, if you don't have enough evidence to say, because the standard is different, that you really are certain of this fact, you can at least accommodate the student who is accusing the other student. For example, she may not want to sit next to him in her science class. She may need a lower course schedule because she's going through trauma. She may need to change dorms. Those accommodations only a school can give, and they need some process to make a decision about it.
But why should the standard of evidence for judging
Because
these
you're not
cases
throwing
be
someone
lower?
in jail. You're not throwing someone in jail. So the difference is, so all of our criminal justice system, you're innocent till proven guilty, you are entitled to a defense, is entirely placed to protect defendants because the consequence is your liberty is taken from you. It is such a serious consequence that our whole criminal justice system is designed to protect the accused. And that is how everything is created. This is not a criminal proceeding. You are not going to jail. Schools need tools to either expel you or to create accommodation for a survivor who has experienced trauma. They need those tools, and Title IX requires them to maintain safe campuses. So if there's a whole class of students who do not feel safe on campus, they're obligated to fix that problem. But just imagine you're a college president and you have 4 accusations against one student by 4 other students, and you have no way to get him off campus until there's a conviction. That would make your head explode. So you need to be able to have a process that's as fair as possible, that can allow you to review evidence in a trained way to make a judgment. And we kick kids out all the time for cheating. We kick them out for not paying their tuition. We should be able to kick them out if they are found responsible for sexual assault.
Okay. Molly, the poll actually got into this issue in 2 ways, dealing with the police versus college investigation question and also sort of asking about fairness. Can you address that?
Yeah, you know, one of the things we did try to capture is what do the students who are living this every day now, you know, think about this question of what's more unfair, that a guilty person doesn't get punished or that an innocent person gets kicked off campus. And it was pretty split, the sort of 49-42 split on that. It's definitely a conundrum for students like it is for policymakers and for administrators. What's interesting, though, it is one of the only places on the survey where we saw very big gender differences. So women were much more likely to say it's more unfair if a guilty person gets to get away with it and stay on campus. And men were more worried about the accusers and so about a false accusation. So I think that's an important point to take away as we're sort of talking about what the conversations on campuses would be around this. In terms of the role of the university versus the the legal system, the police presence. You know, again, students are more divided on who should have the ultimate responsibility for dealing with these cases. And again, they were split down the middle. What they're not split about, though, is the avenue for victims. And what they did say is that if a victim chooses not to go to the police, should they have a way to, should the university be required to investigate? And everyone's 100% behind the victims there. They say, we think that that somebody who has experienced this should have a way through their university administration to investigate and to try to solve this situation for them.
Okay, so Debbie, I've got a fairness question for you too. So the NCAA is sort of in a tricky situation sometimes. Prominent athlete gets accused. Colleges, the perception is that maybe the colleges or their athletic departments are trying to help that athlete who's accused. So how do you come down on this question about sort of what athletic departments and colleges should do when there's an accusation against an athlete?
Well, I'm going to defer to the executive committee of the NCAA. In August of 2014, they made a unanimous decision that no athletic department should investigate or adjudicate any case involving a student athlete. Student athletes should be treated the same way all other students on the campus are treated.
And is that happening?
It is happening in some places.
And our bill makes that mandatory, that there has to be one adjudication process for all students.
It's interesting that there's still some outliers on that.
Maybe they haven't read the guide yet, I'm not sure. So,
Okay, back to the audience. A woman in the back there on the aisle.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. My name is Amanda. I'm the president and founder of a nonprofit that advocates for sexual assault, Bill of Rights. I'm a survivor. I was raped during my final semester at Harvard, and I went to the hospital, and I got a rape kit done, which is a 3 to 7 hour long procedure. Unfortunately, in Massachusetts, every 6 months, your kit can be removed to be destroyed if you haven't reported it, even if the statute of limitations is 15 years. And so in building a legal defense for why I should know where DNA samples taken from my body are, I found that across the US, there are these rights protections for survivors in each state. And so I started reaching out to my professors, at Harvard Law and to experts, and we wrote a bill for Massachusetts that's going through right now, and hopefully it will provide rights. But we also have a resolution that's going through the House right now. And what I want to talk to you about—
Would you like to ask a question?
Yes, and this is to Senator Gillibrand, is that we get the chance to talk to you about our bill, because right now, honestly, what this means is that justice is dependent on geography. Had I been raped in California, Colorado, Texas, this wouldn't happen to me, but it's literally because Massachusetts doesn't have this. And equality under the law is something that is a core American value, and is something that 25 million survivors across the US are being denied right now.
I will work with you on that.
Thank you.
One more from the audience. How about here with the gentleman in the red tie?
I have read.
Wait for the microphone, please.
My name is
Quickly.
Mizan Majumdar. I'm a nuclear engineer by profession, mechanical engineer. I work for an organization, but I'm not going to mention that. I'm here on my own interest. I have a lot of passions about this problem. I think it's a national problem. It needs to be seriously taken by our senators, congressmen, everybody.
Quickly.
What I have seen in the poll is this: 20%, it says, of the rape victims in our campuses and colleges, universities. If I took an example, for example, 40,000 people in a campus. There are many campuses has 40,000 students. So 8,000, 20% is 8,000 is raped. It's a big number. Then the poll says that 37% thinks it's a problem. And then
I'd like you to come to the question, please.
Yeah, so 63% thinks it's not a problem. So 63% is 25,000 students. So I think the problem here is this, is the campus population has to be concerned about it. They're not.
Okay, let's talk to the panel, and I would like the,
So one of the reasons why we're going to do these surveys is so every school will have the information, and every student and every parent in America will have the information about every school. And it's just a snapshot in time, but it will be reflective of reality because it will be filled in confidentially by students. And so I can't stand the debate about what's the right number, and I'm so grateful you did this poll so that you could begin to enhance that debate. It's too many is the right number. It's far too many. So regardless of what it is, it's too many. And so what this poll will do is clarify reality for everyone, and I think it's really necessary.
Well, and I would just say too that what we found is that this issue is really ubiquitous on campus. I mean, it's not just the people who, the too many who it's happening to, but it's the people who say that they've heard it reported from their friends and that they know of somebody. And pretty soon you get up to the fact that that most people on a college campus have had some sort of personal connection to something related to this issue. And right then and there, you realize that it's conversations that are happening, but they need more help on what to do, and they need better training about what to do. And people do want to get involved, and they do think that when they are talked to after it, the earlier panel said how important that first conversation is about who you report to. Most of the people who are having these experiences are reporting it to somebody. The question is are those people informed enough and empowered enough to know what to do to help the person who is reporting to them? And we talk about in healthcare all the time that since everybody is making their healthcare decisions based on friends and family recommendations, you really hope that your friends and family are consumer report readers. And it's the same thing here. We really need to make sure that everybody on a college campus is an informed participant and understands what the mechanisms are, what the options are, and can help both those who are in the situation or are potentially in the situation in the terms of bystander intervention, and who can help prevent it from even happening in the first place.
Debbie, would you like to give a quick last thought?
Yes, one of the thoughts I'd like to give everyone is that we have to have a critical mass of people on our campus who want to make the campus safer. We have that mass. Over 94 to 95% of our male college students will never assault anybody. But they have got to be part of the solution. They have got to step forward. This is the bystander intervention training. We have to become more sophisticated in how we make sure that what they learn actually goes into action and is enduring. The other thing that I want to say is that, again, I want to just thank those survivors who came forward. I think what they have done is incredible. Everything from the Ray Rice video when it hit to seeing these normal, healthy, wonderful young people who are telling their stories. And then we understand the prevalence of this problem. It brings it home in a different way. It brings home the awareness, and we must have awareness, informed awareness, across the nation before we are really going to change this problem.